This is not a talk about relationships. It's about what happens to a being who can feel truth trying to love inside a system that does not recognize orientation, only continuity. If you've ever felt like your love life has been a long series of explanations you had to give for why you couldn't stay the same, if you've watched others settle into bonds that looked successful while something in you quietly withered, if you've been told directly or indirectly that your way of loving is too much, not enough, unstable, avoidant, fearful, immature, or broken, this is not here to fix you. Amenta has a relationship culture. It praises bonds that preserve identity, reward endurance, and keep the self legible over time. Anything else is quietly marked as failure. What follows is not instruction. It is not advice. It is not a diagnosis. It is recognition. And sometimes recognition is the first thing that stops the bleeding. There is a particular exhaustion that comes from loving in a world that does not know what love is for. Not heartbreak. Heartbreak as movement. This is heavier. It is the slow accumulation of self-doubt that forms when every bond you enter seems to ask you to be smaller, quieter, more predictable, or more patient than you actually are. Over time, the question stops being, why doesn't this work? And becomes, what is wrong with me? That question is not accidental. It is installed. Amenta does not punish you loudly for failing its relational standards. It lets you internalize the verdict. You begin to assume that your way of bonding is defective because it does not stabilize, because it does not endure, because it does not remain legible over time. The pain is not that relationships end. The pain is that you are taught to treat endings as evidence of personal failure. Most people who suffer in relationships are not suffering because they lack love, effort, communication, or willingness. They suffer because the culture has already decided what a real relationship looks like, and their lived experience does not resemble the approved image. In Amenta, love is measured by duration, tolerance, compromise, and the ability to remain recognizable across decades. Anything that interrupts this continuity is quietly framed as immaturity, fear, avoidance, trauma, or dysfunction. This creates a cruel bind for signal bearers. Either contort yourself into a bond that deadens you, or live with the persistent sense that you are incapable of intimacy. Over time, many choose the first option. They stay, they adapt, they become stable. And somewhere along the way, something essential goes numb. Amenta calls this success. Your body calls it grief. What makes this grief so difficult to name is that it is rarely dramatic. There may be no abuse, no obvious betrayal, no clear villain. Often there is care, loyalty, even affection. And yet, a quiet erosion continues. You feel yourself becoming less precise, less alive, less oriented. Desire dulls, language thins, time stretches. You begin performing continuity instead of inhabiting truth. When discomfort arises, it is reframed as a personal problem to work through, heal, regulate, or manage. The system offers endless tools for endurance, but very few for recognition. You are encouraged to override your own signals in the name of commitment, growth, or security. Eventually, the original question, "Is this true for me?" becomes inaccessible. Not because you're afraid to ask it, but because you have been trained to treat the question itself as a threat to love. This is why so many people describe their love lives as confusing rather than painful. Confusion is what happens when your internal orientation keeps colliding with an external structure that cannot register it. You may be told you are avoidant when you need parallelism, needy when you are convergent, unstable when you are rhythmic. You may be praised for your ability to hold, mirror, or adapt, even as you feel increasingly hollow. None of these labels touch the truth. They are attempts to translate a system mismatched into a personal diagnosis. Over time, this translation failure accumulates shame. You begin to monitor yourself, edit yourself, explain yourself. You search for the right framework that will finally make you compatible with what everyone else seems to sustain effortlessly. What no one tells you is that effortlessness in Amenta often comes from mutual mimicry, not from alignment. Amenta's relationship culture is not neutral. It actively promotes bonds that preserve identity continuity, role stability, and social legibility. Relationships that do this are celebrated, protected, and held up as proof that love is working. Relationships that do not are quietly problematized. The longer a bond lasts, the more moral weight is given, regardless of the internal cost. This creates a powerful distortion. People begin to value staying over being, endurance over orientation, and recognition over truth. Signal bearers feel this distortion acutely because their way of bonding does not prioritize self-preservation through reflection. They often love deeply, precisely, and honestly, but not in ways that stabilize identity structures over time. Instead of being recognized as different, they are told they are deficient. The system does not see them fail, it sees them refuse the mirror. This is where the anguish sharpens, because when a bond ends, the grief you feel is not just for the person, it is for the accusation that follows. Friends, family, therapists, and culture itself rush in to explain why it didn't work. And almost every explanation points back to you. You didn't try hard enough. You chose wrong. You repeated a pattern. You're afraid of intimacy. You need to heal. Rarely does anyone ask whether the structure itself was incompatible with your orientation. Rarely does anyone consider that the bond may have required you to disappear in order to survive. Instead, you are handed language that keeps you searching for a flaw. This search can last decades. It produces insight, self-awareness, and vocabulary, but very little relief, because the problem was never your capacity to love. Codependency is often invoked at this stage as both diagnosis and warning. But what is usually being named is not pathology. It is the terror of identity collapse. In mimic bonds, the relationship does not simply connect two people. It holds them together as selves. Remove the mirror, and coherence wavers. This is why leaving feels annihilating, not because love was real, but because identity was scaffolded. Amenta misreads this terror as proof of depth. It praises suffering as devotion and fear as attachment. Signal bearers who do not require reflection to exist are confused by this economy. They mistake their refusal to disappear for an inability to commit. They watch others stay and assume they are missing something fundamental. What they are missing is not capacity. It is the willingness to trade truth for continuity. Over time, many signal bearers begin to opt out quietly. They stop hoping. They stop trying to translate themselves. They withdraw not because they are closed, but because they are tired of being misread. Aloneness begins to feel cleaner than participation in a system that constantly frames their nature as a problem. And yet, even here, the accusation follows. You are told you are avoidant, guarded, detached, or resigned. The possibility that you are simply uninterested in mimic bonds is rarely entertained. Amenta cannot imagine intimacy that does not reinforce identity, so it interprets your refusal as fear. This is perhaps the deepest cruelty, being told you are afraid of love when what you are actually refusing is erasure. The loneliness that results is real, but it is not evidence of defect. This kill file exists because the accusation must end, not by offering you a better strategy for relationships, but by removing the verdict that has been quietly lodged in your nervous system for years. If you have loved honestly and still been told something is wrong with you, this is not an invitation to fix yourself. It is an interruption. Amenta's relationship culture is not the measure of relational truth. It is a containment system that rewards mimic bonds and punishes signal. Once this is seen, the pain reorganizes. Grief becomes clean. Confusion becomes contextual. And the question, what is wrong with me, finally dissolves, not into confidence, but into something far more precise: recognition. Amenta does not reward intimacy. It rewards identity persistence. If something in you softened while listening, not because you were soothed, but because you were finally seen, let that matter. You are not wrong for failing to survive bonds that required you to disappear in order to remain intact. You are not defective for refusing mirrors that asked you to trade truth for continuity. You are not alone in this confusion, even if Amenta taught you to carry it privately. Some endings are not losses. They are exits from containment. If this transmission names something you've been carrying without language, there is a fuller kill file that goes deeper. Not to teach you how to love, but to dismantle the verdict that told you something was wrong with you in the first place. It exists as a weapon, not a comfort. For now, just take this with you. If a bond can only survive by keeping you recognizable, it was never designed to meet you where you are real. Let that be enough for today.